Right, welcome back. So let's talk elections now. So on Tuesday, President Cyril Ramaphosa declared that the 6th general elections will be held on the 8th of May 2019 and stated that the day will be a public holiday. One has to be registered to vote, and you've got to be on the voters' roll in order to elect a new National Assembly and new provincial legislatures in each province. So the Electoral Commission of South Africa, or the IEC, closed the voters' roll. And this week with us is IEC Commissioner Moepya, and he's here to answer a couple of questions about the elections. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
It's good to be here.
Good. I got a nice, pleasant surprise. When I looked on the screen, I'm like, hang on a second, that's Masutu in studio with us, not Sai. But it's good to have you in here and coming and chatting to us. Yeah. How have we done? So now it's closed. So let's begin there. The voters' roll is officially closed. When did it close? Tuesday?
On Tuesday, when proclamation was issued on Tuesday, at midnight, the voters' roll that we had on that day will be the voters' roll that we will use in these elections.
All right. So for anybody that's thinking that, oh my gosh, I better quickly go out there and register to vote, it's too late. You cannot vote now.
Regrettably, it's too late now.
All right. Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but at the same time, let's talk about how successful the drive has been. New registrations. How are we looking for these elections?
We of course would want everyone that is eligible to register and to vote to be on the roll, but we do have 26.7 million. We will finalize those numbers. I'm sure we will issue them, because persons that registered on Tuesday, we still go through the verification process with the National Population Register, and we will then validate that, and we will issue final figures. But we are anticipating that it'll be just over 26.7 million.
Okay, so from previous years, is this slightly up, or is it?
Oh yeah, it's up.
It's up. It's up quite a bit.
Yeah, it's up. We're at least 1 million up.
Fantastic. That's good news. Are these all new voters? I mean, I can see the numbers here, 703,794 new registrations.
Yes.
Are these people that have never voted before in terms of age, or is it also guys that perhaps feel like they want to vote for the first time?
Well, the majority of those, in excess of 82% of those, are persons that are young, first-time voters, but you do have persons that fall between, the age of registration since the last elections, and persons who were not registered before then.
Yeah, I'm looking at the breakdown as well. It's quite interesting to look at it. You've got 14,720 female and 12,046,000. I beg your pardon, 14 million female, 12 male.
Yes.
So you've got a bigger female voting base.
I believe our population, our voters' roll is following the population pattern. But also it's important to say that we must give credit where credit is due. Women take this seriously, and we congratulate them for doing so. We want to encourage them to come out in their numbers and to elect representatives of their choice.
We always focus in on as well the youth, and we get worried that the youth do not participate in elections too much. And it's always, I know it year after year, we always talk about it and say, what is it about the fact that we're not talking to the youth, that they don't get involved in elections? Is it a bit of a different pattern this year?
Look, the issue of youth, I want to believe, and most of us at the Commission, in fact, I could safely say almost all of us, think that it is not an issue of them not being interested. It's a question of how best do we reach them where they are, and how do we get them interested. And once we have done so, how do we do, as political parties, for those that are in political parties, to get them engaged with whatever service offerings they have for them. And I think that is the trick. But the world over, young persons, the rate of their participation is not as high as we do. So South Africa has to deal with that kind of a pattern. We, in many ways, do get to understand how we can engage with these young people, and we must never, feel we cannot reach a point where we have an understanding of how best we can get them engaged. It is my hope, and we believe so at the Commission, that once young people, in fact we have that pattern, once young people are registered, there is a very high possibility of them coming out on election day to vote. And so we've got to capitalize on that.
Just remind us the age of a voter here in South Africa. Where does it begin?
It's 18.
At 18 years of age.
Yeah.
So that's, you want to target that group, but I'm seeing it's 29% are between 18 and 19, so we need to grow that. Let's get into a little bit more detail now.
Yes.
So the proclamation starts the official election timetable.
Correct.
Give us a little bit of education behind that. What is on the election timetable?
Well, a number of things happen, Leanne, and a lot of these things will unfold as we go. But to give you an insight, the proclamations were issued on Tuesday, and what then happens is officially at midnight that day, the voters' roll that we had would be the voters' roll that would be used for elections. The following day, which was yesterday really after proclamation, the day following proclamation, which was yesterday, the Electoral Commission consulted with represented parties. We have what we call a party liaison committee, and we consulted with them on the election timetable itself to say what then happens from here until results are declared. And so that consultation was successful. It has been concluded. It would then be followed today by a notice or a gazette that lays down the entire election timetable. And the election timetable, it's something like this document that I have. And it sets out exactly what will happen and when that has to happen. For example, it will say tomorrow the Chief Electoral Officer must give notice that the provisional voters' roll that we have is now available for inspection.
Okay.
And then it will sequentially set out the dates up to election day. And perhaps I should go through one or two of those very critical dates. As we see it, on the 5th of March, the Chief Electoral Officer will publish a list of all the voting stations that will be used in these elections and their addresses. In other words, that you would know where voting will be taking place on the 8th of...
On the day.
On the 8th of May. Then we will have a cutoff date for the objections to the voters' roll. Remember, the voters' roll will lie open for inspection. People will go and look at the details of the voters' roll. They'll look at who's on the voters' roll, who's not on the voters' roll, and whether their details are correct. In the event that we have persons that are not entitled to be on the voters' roll or persons that have been omitted on the voters' roll, anyone is free to object to that and say to the Electoral Commission, you have omitted or you have included.
How do we check? I mean, how can an individual check whether or not all their details are fine on the voters' roll? The Chief Electoral Officer is going to publish a notice telling you where you can view the copy of that. But you can also view, check a person online on our website. And you can SMS as well, as far as I know.
Yes, you can SMS.
I mean, you can SMS and it'll tell you what your details are, and
Absolutely.
you know whether that's right or wrong.
Yes.
If it's wrong, they contact the IEC to sort that out.
Yeah, well, in this instance, you will object because the law provides for that. You will say, Leanne, it's registered at this voting district. She's not entitled to be in that voting district for the following reasons.
Okay.
And the Commission will consider that and say whether the objection, has merit or is not merited.
All right. I want to just, I know we're running out of time, and I know there's a couple of dates you want to get through, but I just want to ask you, I see in front of me that we've got approximately 300 parties contesting the elections.
Yeah.
Is that correct? 300 parties?
Let's be careful. They are eligible to contest.
Okay.
They are not contesting yet. We will know that sometime in April, and I think the date on which we will know that, it's the 11th of April, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so that's that important date. So
yes.
When you say whether they are eligible, is that they've paid their deposit, that they meet all requirements?
No, they are registered they are recognized as registered parties in this country. The only thing they need to do is pay a deposit and submit a list of candidates.
And that's got to be done by the 11th of April?
By the 11th of April, we'll have finished that process. The date on which the list of candidates must be submitted to the Commission, it's a date earlier than that. It's the 13th of March.
Okay.
On the 13th of March,
okay,
all the parties that wish to contest elections must submit to the Commission a deposit and a list of candidates.
So, okay, I mean, that list of 300 is going to be whittled down quite substantially, because just finally, it basically says that since January 2018, 41 parties have been registered and qualified, and everything is fine with 41 parties, but there are a lot of new parties, clearly, that want to contest these elections.
Yeah, we see that with every election, closer to the time when an election is going to be held, there is an upsurge in the number of registered parties, and you're fairly quiet thereafter. But then the normal process, we notice the normal pattern in between elections of, let's say between 3 and 5 parties that are registering in a month or so.
Excellent. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you, and I know we're going to have you in so many more times with that agenda and that diary. We need to talk quite closely to it. Cyril Moepya, thank you very much. Our IEC Commissioner talking to us about the upcoming elections, how it's gone, registered voters. Unfortunately, if you haven't registered, ladies and gentlemen, it is over. The voters' roll has officially been closed. It happened at midnight on Tuesday, and whoever's on that list is on that list and no other names added.